And then he says to give attention into the reading, exhortation, and to doctrine. Again, what is doctrine? By definition. Somebody remember it?
A program that you're going to teach?
Okay, what you've been taught. What you've been taught. Yes, what you've been taught. So if you've been taught it, that'd be doctrine, right? So, you know, the things that you can give attention to. If you're going to put attention to it, then what do?
You read
it. Okay, focus, study, read, practice.
Put
it to use. If you're not going to give it any attention, then what do? You ignore it. You try not to look at it, right? Like, I mean, if you're really not going to give attention, yeah, you realize that takes effort.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like, you actually have to go out of your way to do so. Do you realize that?
It's like a negative effort.
It is. But like, kind of I guess to me, like the point of that is that, I've had people like, to serve the Lord, for example, is too much work. Do you realize that you're working your tail off trying not to? To try to avoid, to try not to be, like you're actually putting forth tons of effort to not. Have you ever known anybody that's completely capable of doing a certain thing, and yet they work their tail off to not do it?
Yeah, my kids.
It's amazing to me because like I've watched people, and I'm like, man, if you would just put in that much effort towards getting something done, like you would get so many things done. But you put so much effort into trying not to. There's so much heart, so much energy, so much brain power, everything put into not doing. It's like, man, if you just would do, like, the positivity that you'd be able to bring, the things that you'd be able to touch, the things that you'd be able to overcome by just putting forth that effort, if you just would put forth that effort. Yeah? But instead, so much effort and so much energy gets put towards not doing. So guys, the thing about giving attention to, that's an instruction for us, and it's to actually give that, right? And so, like, you're going to be giving it to one thing or another, whether it's the attention to not do or whether it's the attention to do. Does that make sense? There's still going to be effort. There's still going to be expenditure of energy. So why not put then our expenditure of energy towards the things that can be positive? Yeah? So what we've been talking about, guys, I'm sorry, jump right in. And for those of you who have not been here with us the last few weeks, this class today may be a little bit just off in the sense of that, like, usually we're tearing down text, really walking through the meaning and the point of each individual thing that's there in that text. Today we're talking about more of a subject matter, and with that, a thing that I actually gave out for everybody to do last week. So everybody that was in here last week received names. How many of you guys received names? Okay, go ahead, keep your hands up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Got about 18 of us in here that received names. Okay, how many of you actually made those calls? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What was the question?
How many actually made the calls? 9. So what was our number? 18? 18, and about 50% actually made those calls. About. Right? Now, guys, I can tell you right now, there was a lot more than 18 that received the numbers. Okay? And I know a few of those that did also make their calls. Okay? So about 50%. Now, that was 50% more people that got touched this week than what got touched last week. So even for those of you who did not do, don't sit there and go, oh, I didn't do, or anything like that. No, okay, you didn't. So guess what you get to do this week? You get to make those calls. Yeah? Don't be discouraged about what did not happen. You know, this week, let's put attention to making sure that we get it done. Now, here's some other parts of this, okay? Now, what I was kind of been battling back and forth with, okay? So this week, I did not call you. I did not call you that I handed those out to. Yeah? There was a few that got called by me, but nobody that was actually in this class last week. So nobody received the exhortation from me to make those calls, and about 50% did. Now, how many of you that did not make your calls, it's okay, be honest if you will, please, be honest, how many of you did not make the calls? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm still letting you out on it, Adrian, because you made one. So I'm letting you off on it, even though, you know, I mean, like, I had this time, I'm letting you out right next time. Switch, be coming for you, okay, so guys, so those of you who did not, how many of you who did not would have, if I would have called you like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there, and said, hey, listen, make your calls right now. How many of you would have went ahead and done it if you would have received that call from me? You don't think so? Like, I mean, how many of you think that you would have? I mean, okay, like, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, to know for certain, you can't know for certain, but I mean, like, how many of you think, you know, if you would have received that exhortation to do so, it would have been back on your mind to do so, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so much, because sometimes, guys, when we're doing it, and I went over that about attention, sometimes, you know, like, it takes energy to put our attention on other things, and that statement is true, what I'm saying is true. But it's not always like we sit there and go, okay, listen, I'm going to put this attention towards not doing things. And a lot of times what happens is there's other things that come up, right? There's other things that start to happen, and then our attention is put on those things. Right. Now, so you understand what I'm saying? So it's not like we go into it like, oh, I'm not going to produce. It's not like that, because our heart really is good. It's just that, you know, all of a sudden there's other things that come up, and our mind wasn't on that. Now, but our mind was on other things, so energy still got spent to the attention that we put it on. Right. Yeah? But what we needed to do is be able to take our attention from time to time and make sure we're putting it on the Lord and on things that are going to be profitable and exhorting, which is what we're going to talk about right here. Man, let us exhort, right? Hebrews, guys. What does Hebrews say about exhortation? It says a bunch of things, but what is one of the most memorable verses about exhortation? Do it. Okay, yes. He does say do it. And it does say that. It just says it right there in the text. It says to do it. But he says, exhort one another daily, and so much more as you see that the day is approaching. What is the day? What is the day?
Second coming of Christ.
Okay, really, it's Christ coming in his judgment, right? And so, like, you know, if more and more that you see that is going to happen, and then, you know, and guys, or you can look at it this way too. There's another way to look at it. One way is to look at, okay, when Christ comes. The other way to look at it is when you die. Because whichever one comes first, I'm not sure. Only God the Father, according to Jesus Christ, knows. So it's not for me to know. Does that make sense? Yet at the same time, one of them is going to happen. Either you'll pass before he comes, or else he'll come before you pass. One of the two, but one of those two things is going to happen. Yeah? So, you know, one thing I think that, you know, when we're younger, we may not think about it all that much. Like, hey, you know what? We have no idea how much longer we're going to be here. We're young. Think, oh man, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'm going to, because it's like we take it for granted that it's going to be there. As you start to get older, or have, and sometimes, guys, maybe it's younger, but get challenged with different things. Maybe it's medical issues or whatever else. It makes you really have to think about that. Right. Does that make sense? Right. So, you know, unless there's something like that takes place, then usually it's as you get older, all of a sudden you start to realize, you look in the mirror, and what you used to see isn't there anymore. Right. Even though your brain says it should still be there, it just ain't. Right? Yeah. Right? You try to roll out of bed, and, you know, when you were young, you just pop right up after 3-4 hours of sleep, and you're just charged for the day. And now, after 8 hours of sleep, you, like, roll out of the bed and, like, try to get going. Like, it, you know, like, so there's more and more reality that day is coming. Yes? So, guys, you know, for us, though, as we do see, man, because whether it happens today, whether he comes back tomorrow, or whether it's we get to be here for 50, 60 more years, however old each one individual is. I know some of you are cursing me for saying that and not wanting to be here that long. But at the same time, if you are, by the way, it is for our profit and for the profit of others. Yeah? So I hope that all of us are here for as long as possible. That we might be a benefit to each other and for others. Now, trust me, I understand the physical things and not wanting to continue to have to deal with those things. But you know what? One glimpse of Him glory will be worth everything.
Amen.
Yeah? So hopefully we get to stay here as long as we can and touch as many souls as possible. All right? But going back to that exhorting, guys, we really want to exhort one another. We want to lift each other up. And guys, it doesn't have to take a ton of energy in order to do so. It really doesn't. Man, it's just weird. I know, but it's just weird because like all of a sudden it'll just like pop and like sorry. It doesn't take a lot of energy. The other day, driving down the road, right? And I live in the baseline corridor right here. And one of my brothers, he's sitting back here in the back today. His job is to be in that baseline corridor. Now this time he didn't see me. Now there's been other times where he sees me. But his job, he's posting, so he's delivering the mail. And all I seen was him just driving by, right? He never seen me, nothing else. But I seen him, and immediately, it's like, oh man, there's my brother. My mind started thinking about the Lord. There was like these different thoughts that were right before that. My mind was on work. My mind was on the things I needed to deal with, whatever happened. Now that I still have to do my work and stuff to deal with those things, yes, but instead of dealing with them, just with my mind just consumed with them, now my mind there was a thought about the Lord.
Okay.
Yeah? My sister, Christine, right here, she's been sending me some jokes, and some of them not. Some of one of them was just like a little picture, I believe it was, right? And it just said, I'll be back for you soon. Something like that. And so there's Jesus Christ. Like, I'll be back for you soon, And so like, just, it made me think about the Lord, right? The other ones were about like some of the things that pastors have to deal with. And so they're kind of funny, but I don't want to offend any of you, so I'm not going to tell on you. Because every single one of them I've seen take place. And then one of them was making fun of the pastors themselves. And about chasing rabbits. And that one was hilarious. Yeah, never mind. I won't try to tell the jokes right now. But and that right there, okay, it's funny, or whatever else. But again, all of a sudden I'm starting to think about the Lord where I wasn't. Does that make sense? Or if I already was thinking about the Lord when all of a sudden those things happen, then it just makes it even that much more. Yeah? Getting a phone call from somebody that's not there to necessarily talk about a lot of stuff. Guys, I guess, and maybe this is just me in my job, I have to talk all the time. I have to deal with individuals and talk to individuals, and a lot of it has to do with whatever they're going through and what they're dealing with and what's taking place, and then how I can help them overcome that or give direction on how to overcome that, right? Give the instructions from the Lord so that they can see how God has already overcome it. Does that make sense? But there's a lot of that, yeah? So sometimes to not have to really think, to just talk, but just to have, hey, I love you. Been thinking about you. I look forward to seeing you Sunday. Simple, short, sweet, can exhort me then to want to think about the Lord and those kind of things, yeah? And being simplified like that for me sometimes is a benefit. Yeah? Right. Because it takes my mind where it needs to be, but it's not overly burdensome in the sense of that, because I still have a lot of other things that are still happening. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So anyways, guys, it does these calls. Don't think like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. Just say, hey, I love you. I'll see you Sunday. And you think I'm joking. I know you guys keep on thinking I'm joking when I make this statement. But by calling and saying, hey, listen, I love you. Okay, so this is Adrian. Hey, I love you. I'll see you Sunday. I look forward to seeing you. Goodbye. Boom. And just hang up. Hey man, God and Jesus loves you. I love you. I'll see you Sunday. Boom. Just like don't even tell them who you are. Just hang up on them. I mean, if it's me and that's the call that I get versus, dude, we want to buy your house and hey, we want to sell you car insurance and hey, we want to do this. If I just got, hey, listen, man, I love you. I'll see you Sunday at church. Boom. At least I go. I'm glad I answered the phone right then. Right? Versus, oh my gosh, here comes another one of those telemarketers. Yeah? Anyways, guys, that exhortation, it's necessary, all right? So those of you who have not, I want you guys to keep your papers. For those of you that have, do you guys bring back the papers? 1, 2,
I forgot mine.
4. No, like, did you bring it, like the ones that you did make your calls. You did make your calls. Did you bring back the paper?
I did the call, but I forgot my paper.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. If you forgot your paper, that's all right. What I would encourage you to do is go ahead and, if you forgot your paper, go ahead and call those same ones again this week. Okay? And then next week, what we'll do is we'll actually look at and see. We'll actually look in the database and we will see who showed and who did not show. Now, this is a reality. I might call 3 people this week, and they may not show. But then 3 people that I never called and none of us in here ever called might show up that otherwise would not. Why does things work that way? Because the Lord works in mysterious ways. Yeah? And guys, I don't know why it is that way, but I have seen many times where what I was thinking I wanted to see take place wasn't exactly what took place, but what God needed to take place took place. However, I do have a strong belief that if I would have never stepped up and did anything at all, that nothing would have taken place. So if I would have stepped up and started believing something, then I wouldn't have seen anything. Yeah? But if we see any increase whatsoever, then is it worth those 5 minutes of saying, hey, listen, I love you, I'll see you Sunday? And God just blesses it. You know, like it doesn't necessarily have to happen the way that I want it to happen. Because obviously, every person that I call, which honestly, not one of them at least is here in this Sunday school class this morning. Right. I would have loved to have seen every single one of them right here. And I have the expectation or the desire to see them here right now. Now, maybe they'll show up tonight or maybe they'll show up for service. You know? But guys, you know, again, at the same time, you know, my heart's desire. Now, I can tell you right now, how many are in here right now that were not here at all last week? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There is 11 people in here right now that were not here last week. Let me ask you, did our efforts have fruit?
Yes.
Yes, they would. You can't deny it. There's 11 here that were not here last week, so was there fruit that came off of it? Yes, there was. Right? Now, and you have to say massive because last week altogether we had about 20 or so individuals, and right now, looking around, I would say that we're over that. Christine, are you the one taking attendance this morning? So guys, how many of you know that attendance is taken every single week for every class and every service? All right. We used to do it on a piece of paper. Yeah? Check mark. And then we ended up, one of our body members found this thing, and it's called Simple Church. It's what it's called. How many of you know about Simple Church at all? Have heard of it? Some of you have never heard of it at all? How many of you have never heard of it at all? It's interesting. It's interesting. Okay, so we have just about as many sitting in here that say, yes, I've heard of it, as those who are saying, nope, I've never heard of it, which is interesting. All right? It is what we use now as our directory, as our church directory. Okay, so instead of printing hundreds of directories like we used to print about 200 of them every year. Each one of them would be about 25 to 50 pages, somewhere in that range is what they would range over the years. All right, front and back. I don't know exactly how much paper that is, but that's a lot of paper. Usually, I think we'd start off with like a whole case, and by the time we were done, we used definitely that whole. So how many is in the case? 500 sheets is in a ream. How many reams are in the case? 10 of them. So it's like 5,000 pages. And then how much ink was used? So we were looking at this, and this individual was like, you know what, if we can use the technology, because the technology, guys, I mean, there's a lot of benefits that come with technology. I think every single one of us can agree with that, but then there's also a lot of negative things that come through technology, especially nowadays, yeah? A lot of negativity that can come from it. How can we use some of those things for a positive? So what we created was a database, all right? And so that database is all stored in an app, I don't know what you can call it, but it's called Simple Church. How many of you have smartphones and can basically then have access? Because like I know I am correct. In order to be able to utilize Simple Church, you have to have a device that can download apps. So it has to be a smartphone, right? Okay, maybe I should ask it this way. How many of you do not have the ability to download apps? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Huh? You don't have room. What do you mean?
Your smartphone's not that smart.
Okay. Guys, and honestly, and I'm sorry, but I am not techie. I'm not techie at all, so I don't understand. All right. So when I was asking, it's because it's not because I just really don't. I don't know. So I have 3 of you in here that are not able to. The rest of you that are able to, you can download an app. So if you went to Google App Store right now and you put in Simple Church, it would bring it up and you could download it on your phone. And I would encourage you that if you don't have it, go right now into your Google App. Huh? It's the one that looks like a tree. Yep. So I would encourage you that if you can, go in there right now and do that. At least you would download the app. Now, in order to be able to get in and do all that kind of stuff, you're going to have to bother Sister Christine over here. Because I have no idea. Again, guys, I'm not techie. All right? But Sister Christine, Sister Tiffany, Yvette, Patricia, I think Martha as well, are all different ones that you could go to and they can help you get signed in. Why are you shaking your head now?
No, Martha and Tasha, because they never put it in my phone either.
Why do you think it was their responsibility to put it in your phone?
Because Martha said, I'll put it in your phone, and she never put it in my phone.
Well, that doesn't mean she doesn't know how to. It just means you need to stay on top of her and make sure she gets done. You need to tell her how important it is. So guys, how many of you guys, how many of you guys remember us going around collecting information for it? You even got your picture taken, okay. So in that, you were asked different things, like there was phone number, address, and there was email, right? I think those were like the 3 main things that you were asked. If you were willing to, and you're hoping that everybody is willing to, because it sure helps, especially because we do have multiple services, to have your picture taken and it being able to be put on there, because like I said, that really does help a whole lot. Guys, you know, I'm not techie. I don't consider myself to be the smartest person, and I can remember faces like crazy, but sometimes names. I blame my dad, who's horrible with names, for it. It's genetic. He passed it on to me. I'm not good with names. But faces I can remember, okay? So, like, if I see a face, then I'm like, oh, that's who that is. Yeah? And guys, and I come to all the services, so it's not like I'm lacking that because I'm not here. You know, like, I mean, like, it's just seriously like a mental block. Like, names doesn't always just come to me, okay? And some people, like, I've known them for forever. And I'm like, dude, what's that big guy's name sitting over there, man? I know, like, I've known him for 20 years. And I have to go over and I'm like, hey, who's that guy? Oh, Jim. Okay, that's Jim. Like, geez. Like, why?
One thing that's really cool about the Simple Church is if you hold it, it'll show the picture of the person and it'll go directly to your phone and your contacts. So when your contacts, when they call, their picture comes up on the screen.
I did not know that at all. So there you go.
I just found out, but it's cool. And their name, everything is everything will install in your phone. Their email address, everything.
So this is my question, is how many of you have changed information since then? Like, so your phone number's changed, address has changed, email has changed, and you have not updated that information or let us know that information needs to be updated. Jim, Bob, okay. So everybody else outside here, we got some trees out here. Grab a lower limb, and when they walk outside, slog them. No. There's 2 different ways to do this. Okay, so if your information changes, one is again all those ladies that I listed off that have been working on the database. You could go to them and you could write down your information ahead of time. This is what I would encourage you to do if you're going to do it this way. If you don't really know how to go in there and do it, write down all your information. Go to them. Ask them if they have time to show you how you can update your own information. And if they don't have that time, then ask them if they could update your information this week and then get with you some other time to show you. Okay? Because it's really, from what I was told, is it's not that hard. Now, I have not had to do it myself. So, again, I can't speak to that and what the steps are because I have not had to. Christine, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, just on the updating part of it, it's gonna be near Tiffany.
Okay.
The other two didn't want it.
Okay, so Christine or Tiffany, so like, you know, but like Jim, you know, like if you just wrote down there, you know, Jim Hartway, here it is, here's the address, whatever else, but ask them, because if they can, that's what I was told is that it's like 2 or 3 steps, and then you can update your own info. Okay? So that would be a big help. The reason why I'm asking about some of this is because of ways for me to be able to contact you. So if all of you guys, how many of you guys actually check your emails? About half that raise their hand. Okay, so I don't. So like I'll check mine. I have to kind of like look at it every day. But literally what I do is I go important, not. Okay, and here's the 1, 2 that are important, and then I deal with all the other things I have to deal with throughout the day. And the other ones kind of just sit there. And the next thing I know, it's showing me that I got 2,000 emails, and then I go through and I go delete. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of it's sales and stuff like that. Even though it's supposed to go over to older files, it really doesn't. Like, and then some of it's, in my job is like just random information from these different groups, like newsletters type things that a lot of the companies and scholarship places and things like that I deal with. Yeah. Anyways, like they'll send me tons of different things, and so a lot of it really is junk mail. I can't list it as that because they send me the good information from those same emails. So I have to have it as non-junk mail in order to be able to get the good things that I need to have. So it's just, but I wanted to know because right now, if I had Sister Christine, since she's in here doing our attendance this morning, she's already taken attendance of everybody who's in here. So right now, if I said, listen, I want everybody to receive what today's text was, which was 1 Timothy chapter 4. Let's see here, verses, really, the main verse is really verse 13. It's really the verse that we're just really focused on. And she emailed that to all of you guys. How many of you guys would actually get that email? And how many of you would like see it like right now? You know what I'm saying? So if I use that, so I can go in there. So this is the thing that's really, really neat. If everybody's information was in there, and if everybody actually did look at their emails, from what I understand right now is that I don't know if I can text through it, but we know we can email through it. So I could actually go into the app, or she could for us right now. I could actually go in there, and I could select my class. Now, I don't think that all of you guys have, I'm an administrator in there, okay, as the teacher, so I have access to this. I don't think everybody else does. But I can go in there and I can select my whole entire class. I can select those who are here, and I can send you all a message. I can select everyone who is not here and send them a message. Like I can filter, and I can send it all through email. Yeah, we did find out it's kind of got a cool little function that will also show me who does not have emails that was here. Okay, but I don't want to miss anybody. So if I'm going to use that as a way of contact, I want to make sure that you actually will get that email and actually see it. So what I'm going to try to do this week is I'm going to actually try to utilize that this week at least once, maybe more than once, and send everybody some messages. Okay? Yeah? So be looking for them, is my point. All right? I want to know from your perspective next week, how did it actually go? Like, was it something that you've seen? Was it readily available for you? Was it not? And then those of you that show up in there that do not have an active email address that I have there, I'm going to try to text you. Okay? And I want to know, guys, like, which way works better for us as a whole. Now, I may not be able to do both all the time, but I'll try. But I want to know what's going to be the best way for us as a group to stay in communication with each other. Does that make sense? And so until we try, how do we know? That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of this, right? And guys, we've had this database for over 2 years now, and really have never utilized it to the potential that it should be being used. All right? Good? Paul? Yes, you can text through it.
What it does is it automatically sends you straight to your messaging.
So I don't know how it's gonna do that with the group texting, okay? Now, here's another thing, guys, and let me bring this up about group texting. I don't know what it's called in texting. I know, what is it, BCC and then, CC, huh?
That's the email.
Yeah, emailing, it's BCC and what?
Carbon copy and one.
Carbon copy and one.
Okay, those things, all right? I know the B one makes it that where nobody else, like, I can send a message to all of you, but it only comes through as though me sending it to one individual. It doesn't show everybody else's, okay? Now, personally, I'm not about that because I'm trying to hide information or not or blah, blah, blah. That's not my big gigantic thing with it. My big gigantic thing with it is we've had this issue before. When there's 75 people on a list or texting list, and there was a bunch of us that were in here that dealt with this one experience in particular, which was the worst one ever. I can't remember how many it was. I counted it up. It was like 300, 600, 500, 600 text messages in one text. So one individual sent out a text to everybody, but did the CC type thing, but it was within the text message. I don't know what it's called in text messages. If it's called the same thing, then great. But,
It's just a mass text.
it's just a mass text, but there's a way that you can shut off that function where it only goes to each individual
Right.
versus it going to everybody and then it responds to everybody. So the way they had it set up was where it responded to everybody. So there was like 50 people that were on this text message. And it was a busy time of year and everything else, and so the text message went out to everybody. And then, you had people responding like, hey, oh, that was sweet. Well, when they responded, it responded to everybody. And then you had another person respond, oh, yeah, thank you, and boom, it went to everybody. And you had another person, and boom, it went to everybody. And then you had somebody who was like, hey, listen, man, can you please stop sending text messages like I'm at work? Because how many of us have to use our phones for work? So right now, there was probably about 8 of us that raised our hand in here. Guys, so people get mad at me. Oh, don't turn off your phone. Well, you know what? I'm already getting, guys, I don't know how on average, I'm saying right now, I think I'm averaging about 5 calls per day of somebody trying to say that my house is for sale, that my house is not for sale. And sometimes calling me with addresses that aren't even connected to me, asking me if I want to sell those houses. I always say yes. Could you send me a check? I'm like, you just go ahead and make the check out to Roger, all right, and send that, and yes. All right, I'll make that deal, all right? No questions asked? All right, send me the check, all right? As long as the check goes through, I'm sure you can deal with them later. I love the money. Sorry. But about 5 phone calls a day, and then I usually average about 3 to 8 text messages a day. So it just kind of depends on that one there. I really don't understand right now with the deregulation of all of that because I'm still on the do not call list. And yet at the same time, this is constant. So I'm really not sure how that all works. But the point is that when I have that all the time, but then I need to have my phone on for my job. I need to be able to communicate at my job. And then there's times where I need to turn it off because maybe I'm in meetings or whatever else. But for the most part, I need my phone to be able to be active. So to have that, and guys, like I said, in that one string, man, and then everybody, man, yeah, please take me off. Please don't send no more messages. Please stop sending messages. Man, stop it. I told you to stop. Stop sending messages. And meanwhile, it's going ding, 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 ding. So here at the school, guys, for us that work here, there's about, 6 full-time teachers, and then there's about 4 full-time other staffers, and then there's anywhere between 4 to 10 volunteers. So if you can imagine on that afternoon, and it went on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I just had to put in there, stop, just please, just everybody, if everybody will just stop texting, this will end. Everybody just stop responding altogether, just stop. And sure enough, I finally stopped. It took 2 hours to get it stopped. If you can imagine what that sounded like up and down these hallways. And then, for us here, kids are trying to do their work, and you get ding, 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 and then all the different noises, all the different sounds, all the different, whatever they're called, ringtones or whatever else, and some of them are people talking, I'm sorry. One of my love brother over here. I'm sorry, never mind now. I won't say it out loud. But some of them are pretty funny. But when you hear it, and and it does. It can be aggravating, and then that makes you not want to get those text messages. So if you are going to send out text messages, please make sure that you do put on there one of two things, and I encourage you to do both. Try to find the setting that makes it to where when they contact you back, they'll only get back to you, especially if you're going to do a group text. Second of all, is put on there. This is a group text. If you are going to respond, please respond directly to me in a separate text. Yeah? That way we don't have to worry about that happening, and then the offense side that can come from that, or the hurt feelings or frustration and things like that, okay? So guys, really thinking about, we want to be active. We want to utilize the technology the best we can, but we don't want it to be something that's going to be annoying or hurt people or frustrate them. Yeah? Does that make sense? So guys, again, exhort one another. Pretty much all phones nowadays, text messaging is something that can happen, right? Yes? Is it still that way that if I know on certain ones, it's after so much time or minutes or whatever else, like phone calls gets limited, but text messages used to be, text messages could still go through. Is it still like that or no? Does anybody know? Okay.
I think it's they can receive.
You can receive, you can't take, you can't call, you can't.
But you still could receive it.
For sure. But that's just like Cricket or yeah, it's like these phones like T-Mobile or Verizon, when they cut your stuff off, you're done. Yeah.
Okay, but like the prepaid ones, you can still maybe receive for a period of time.
I don't know about prepaid, but I know that.
Well, because the Cricket ones, that's kind of was the idea with Cricket, right? Is it some sort of okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, guys, again, because again, I'm not techie, so I remember kind of facing some of these things before. I want to make sure that we can do the best that we can to stay in communication with each other. All right. So if something happens and you are one of those that cannot maybe respond or whatever else, go to a neighbor, knock on the door, ask them if you can borrow their phone real quick because you need to call your pastor or your teacher or whatever else, And then in that, it might open the window for you to be able to talk to them about what you've experienced about the Lord. Yeah? So instead of looking at it as a thing that's impassable, oh, I don't know how to overcome this. No, instead look at, this is an opportunity that maybe the Lord is opening another way. Yeah? All right. Well, guys, listen, we're right here towards the end of our class time. What is our numbers at this morning? Sorry, I thought you still had it open. I meant to ask for that earlier, I'm sorry. How many of you guys need to download the Simple Church, or maybe you need to download it onto your phone? You already did?
Download what?
Simple Church, the database, the one we're talking about right now as far as being able to use as a communication tool. We have 40? How many did we have last week? Oh, you shouldn't have to wait. I'm sorry. Okay, so we have 40 in here next week. Okay, fine. We have 40 in here next week, guys. Let's make as many of those phone calls that we can. All right. If those of you that brought yours back with you want to turn them into me and grab a new one, come up here and get that from me. All right. We got a couple more minutes before the church services is going to start. Let's keep it up. Let's see. Let's look at it. Let's dissect it. Let's look at some good things. All right. As I'm dismissing you guys, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information. I know a lot of you guys have supported here at Pleasant View Christian Elementary School. Okay? And I'm going to post this stuff, all right? And pray for us. Hopefully get like a new website and stuff like that up as well. With a little bit easier of a, what is that called? URL, the search name. Last year, guys, from 1st through first through 8th grade. There were 57 children that were tested with the standardized test. All right? Our number totals was 68% of our children were at or above grade level according to that test. Now, that is not Arizona state standards. I need to make this clear. This is federal, not even federal. This is Stanford 10, which is a very, very universal. It's used across the world, okay? Not just here in the United States. So it's a very, very recognized test. It is not washed down. It is not watered down. It's not an easy test to go by any means. 68% were at or above, and 44% of that group was above grade level. Okay? Let me jump over to some. I got like a bunch of different ones. The state guys in language last year, their goal for 8th graders was that 39% of their 8th graders would be able to do language at pace, meaning that they would be able to be promoted and still be able to pass when they go on. That was their goal, was 39. I'm sorry, no, their goal was 42, sorry. What they reached was 39%. What PDCE was 88%. In reading, in math, their goal was 38, what they met was 32, where we were at was 75.
That's good.
Nationally, guys, in comparison, the national average was 34%. We were at 88%. The national average in reading was 36, and again, we were at reading, we were at 75%.
That's great.
Okay, so that's just a few of them, guys. I have a lot more that I wanted to share with you, but just time-wise, I won't do that today. All right, but I will get all this stuff posted, and we'll put it up and let everybody know kind of how we're faring compared. And the national averages, guys, is actually from the National Association of Education. So that's not me just like finding that number somewhere. I am going to the Fed's website and getting that information. And then I'm getting it from Arizona Department of Education website. Okay, so again, these numbers are, they are what they are. That's not me messing with anything. That's exactly the way that it is. How they look at their standards, guys, it is not the same way that we do in ours. So even on our numbers, understand that when I'm looking at our numbers, I'm holding us to an exact percentile. They are looking at the number of children that like passed, basically that got passed on. So it's a little bit different because I'm looking at actually like where did they test at. Now some of those kids may not have had a good test day, that we know that child is actually very proficient, and so they continue on. Does that make sense? But that doesn't filter into our numbers. So if somebody had a bad test day, then that brings our numbers down. So even with that being said, we still tested at that grade level, or at that percentage. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you for your guys' support. Please continue to do so. It is changing hearts and minds. And most of us that grew up, like in this area, for example, know that, that's not something that, there wasn't a big priority. And a lot of people that grew up right here never believed they could have that kind of education or accomplish those kind of things. And guys, last 2 years, all of our 8th graders actually have goals set not only for high school, but for college and for their career coming out of 8th grade. So guys, it's a lot of, and then them getting to hear the gospel every single day. You have over 100 students that are getting to hear the gospel every single day, plus, guys, their parents, and reaching for all of them. So anyways, I love you. Thank you for your support. Continue to do so. The numbers proves that, man, it is something that's been a great, great positive thing. So I love you all. Thank you all. Let's encourage one another. Make those phone calls if anybody needs a move. I have a few right here. Okay? Yes.